For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. On infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections.
If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
Violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups who are terrorizing the innocent, destroying jobs, hurting businesses, and burning down buildings. They are coming after me because I am fighting for you. That's what's happening.
Greetings, fellow thought criminals, and thank you for joining the Insurrection. I'm Michael Lauber. This is Derrick Evans. It's Monday. We've already got a bunch of huge stories that broke over the weekend, and I don't think things are going to slow down anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's already wild. It's just Monday. It's going to be a wild week, that's for sure. As always, guys, thank you guys for watching. Like, share, subscribe, all those good things. If you're new to the show and you're watching live, leave a comment in the chat. We'll do our very best to read your comments and include you as part of the show as much as we possibly can. So with that, we're going to get ready to rock and roll.
Oh, yeah. The big story originally was the announcement of Kash Patel and all the wailing and gnashing of teeth that resulted as of that. But then late last night, we got the news that Joe Biden, I don't know how anybody expected him to keep his word, but Joe Biden broke his word and pardoned Hunter. Two systems of justice. Joe Biden pardoned son Hunter. Another hoax. Joe repeatedly promised he wouldn't. And I got a few more for you. Oops, went too far. He's off the hook for everything. Biden crime family peak disgrace. First president to pardon his child. Joe suggests Hunter's the victim. He was unfairly prosecuted. And, I'm honestly I'm not surprised Joe Biden ended up pardoning Hunter, but I am surprised he did it now, where it could be the headline and it'll be all anybody talks about for the next few days. I kind of figured he would wait to do this to when either there was a story he wanted to deflect attention from, or do it right before Trump's inauguration, to kind of take the wind out of those sails and prevent coverage from a lot of the things that Trump's going to enact early on, a lot of the executive orders, that type of thing.
I was honestly just surprised that he, even pretended that he wasn't going to do this. I think everybody knew the whole time. Well, other than the left, a lot of the people on the left were cheering him on and, talking about justice and that he would, no one's above the law, all this stuff. And to me, it was, I was shocked the entire time because I think myself and most of our audience probably all knew that when it came down to it, push come to shove, he was going to pardon Hunter. And I think that most fathers would, but I think that most people would not lie about it to the American people this entire time. I think that the time frame of the pardon that it covers is very interesting because it goes all the way back to 2014, which is when things starts happening with Ukraine, Burisma, all that stuff. So I think that's pretty interesting. They chose all the way back to that time frame when I believe the statute of limitations on most issues are 5 years or maybe 10, so they would be over with by now. And he still went ahead and pardoned him all the way back. So that's really, really interesting on that.
Yeah, well, I think that was try to create cover because, Kash Patel and some of these others are going to start investigating Burisma and everybody around the Biden crime family. And I suppose Biden can't pardon his brother or his daughter or anybody else that was involved in taking those funds, since no charges have been filed officially. Now, I've heard different opinions from people that what was it they were saying before? CNN had a legal analyst on saying that Biden could inoculate the rest of his family and do basically a preemptive pardon, but that's also never been done before. It's just legal theory. But I mean, honestly, I suppose the guy's correct. There's not limitations put on who the president can pardon from federal charges, and it's not spelled out. It's not it's explicitly spelled out anywhere. So maybe you can, maybe you can't, and that might be another battle for the courts. But I think this is to try to prevent investigations into all the money laundering in Ukraine and elsewhere that Hunter was responsible for.
Yeah, well, quick shout out to Dan Dreyer in the Rumble chat, and then in the Twitter chat we got Infidel Supreme and Michelle, Michelle says the first executive order should be to arrest Joe and Hunter for treason. And you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Hunter's covered on that on this pardon if it happened, but you know what I mean. That's interesting. But to your point, MSNBC was out yesterday, and we all know what kind of liberal rag that place is. But they were on live television, saying exactly what you just said, is that Joe Biden should go ahead and pardon himself as well as the rest of his family and his associates because, Trump's going to use lawfare and all this other stuff. They are the party of lawfare, the left is, and everything that they've been doing for the last 4 years at minimum. And it's funny that they're saying all those things now on that. And so we're gonna see what happens. I think that if I was Joe Biden and being the selfish man that he is, I would pardon myself for sure, because deep down he knows he's guilty of all these things. And so an innocent person wouldn't need to pardon himself, but Joe Biden probably should pardon himself.
Yeah, just to protect from what else is coming, because yeah, you're right. There are going to be more. There are more items left that can still be charged to both of them, and there's more that needs to be investigated. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm sure they're running scared right now. But honestly, I think they ought to run the investigations regardless, even if they're just end up making statements at the end of them, like, we can charge this person, this person, this person, but we can't charge Hunter Biden due to his father's pardon, because it would at least keep it in people's minds just how corrupt they are. Justin,
before
Trump.
Before we move on to this, so Mike, I want to to your point there. So it's come out yesterday that now that Hunter has been pardoned, he no longer has Fifth Amendment privilege, because it's impossible for him to self-incriminate himself because he's pardoned, and there's nothing he can do about that. So they can bring him in, like if Congress wants to to do it, even if it's Congress or the FBI, which would be a lot more teeth under it. If they wanted to call him in as a witness, he does not have Fifth Amendment privilege on anything that happened during that time frame, because he has he has been pardoned and he cannot self-incriminate himself. What he could potentially do, though, is lie to protect his father, which now he's perjured himself after the time frame of the pardon, and they could go after him for perjury if he chose to do so. So, and then the other thing is, this is only a pardon for federal crimes. I'm hoping that we have some of these attorney generals out there who actually have a backbone, like Ken Paxton and in Texas, and then I think there's the guy in Missouri, I can't remember his name. If they can look and see that any of the Biden crime family, Hunter Biden, his dealings involved a bank that was in their state, I'm wondering if they now have jurisdiction to come at him from the state side of things. So this is only a pardon on the federal crime issues. I think that as conservatives, we need to be creative on this, and I do think that there needs to be justice, not just because they are a political enemy. That has nothing to do with it. It's because, I mean, there's evidence of him committing these crimes, and the most despicable of this entire pardon to me is when I was in prison for January 6th, I've met countless people, primarily black men, who were in prison over the 1994 crime bill that Joe Biden authored and sponsored and pushed through and was proud to get passed. And that is some of the same charges that Hunter Biden had been charged with. And so these black men are sitting in prison right now under the 1994 crime bill that Joe Biden got passed, but then he gives his son a pardon on the same exact thing that all these people are locked up for. So I think it's very despicable when you think about it from that perspective.
Oh yeah. Well, to your point too about state charges, Garrett Ziegler that runs MarcoPolo.com, the Hunter Biden laptop, he did a full print book you can get of all the emails and other stuff that they recovered from that. But anyway, very smart guy. And this forever ago, I think you were on the same Twitter space that he was speaking at. He's already got these things broken down like state by state and like little bite-sized pieces. So whatever AG wanted to could pull from here and get charges. Because I think he was discussing some stuff that was in Florida. At the hotels with both prostitution, using drugs, everything else that's on video, since Hunter Biden walks around with a full film crew all the time apparently. But he was talking about how like in several states we already know that we have charges they could move forward with just to the video evidence that he's willfully produced himself. Now, so a lot of this was in states where good luck getting anybody to do anything, like Delaware, Massachusetts, and DC and whatnot. But there were several that took place in Florida and other places where they would move forward with prosecution. Trump did respond to this late yesterday and said, this is a miscarriage of justice, especially considering the ongoing imprisonment of J6ers. And he's exactly right. Hunter Biden gets off no jail time, despite convictions and violating much more serious laws, committing much more serious crimes than 99.99% of J6 defendants are even accused of. However, because he's the president's son, he's not going to have to do any jail time while these rest of these guys are still rotting in prison.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's filmed himself, drugs, guns, hookers. I mean, the whole 9 yards. And that's just what we know of. There's a lot of other, that's not even getting into Ukraine with the money laundering and all that. And it's not just the money laundering is bad enough, but when you actually exploit the seat of the vice president of the United States and exploit our government and the taxpayers and everything to benefit yourself. I mean, that is next level in terms of money laundering schemes that's going on out there. This family needs to be held accountable to the fullest extent. And at the very least, even if Joe pardons everybody involved, I still want to see an investigation into this to, at the very least, uncover all this and expose this to the American people so that they, know what really happened. We deserve to know what happened regarding at least the dealings that involve the United States of America, at the very least, and expose them for the crime family that they are, ruin Joe Biden's legacy, even with some of those on the left. And honestly, I would say there's a lot of people tied into this that would not end up receiving a pardon, because I believe this web, these tentacles would go so much deeper than anybody could imagine. National File broke earlier that Hunter Biden's partner with the Burisma was actually partners with Maxwell from the Epstein client list. So there's a lot of inner workings here, and there needs to be a real investigation done into the Biden crime family.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Like, this is influence peddling at the end of the day, and there's a web of people that need to be taken down that won't have the same resources and assets that Hunter does, that will turn around and talk, and we can rip the rest of these people out. Because let's remember, there's other people in Congress who put their children on boards of these different companies over in Ukraine. Romney did, Pelosi, and I think there's somebody else I'm forgetting that had a kid on a board of one of these Ukrainian energy companies. So it's time to take down that whole network, make sure it doesn't happen again, expose them all, and they can pay for their crimes in jail. Well, it isn't just that. We got one other story, one other headline related to this. It's pretty funny. Sequoia's Sean McGuire, Biden or Hunter is an absolute shitbag. Hunter Biden owes his family $300K in back rent. And then from his tweet up here, yep, true story. Hunter was our tenant in Venice, California. Didn't pay rent for a year. Tried to pay with art made from his feces. Absolute shitbag. I don't know if that was what he was calling Hunter or that was the name of his art piece.
Yeah, I'm laughing because it's funny, but it is sad for these people who've been, stiffed by them at the end of the day on this. And that's a lot of money in back rent, $300,000. And yeah, I've seen the guy tweeting about it. And it just really, once again, goes to show just how corrupt this family is and just how little regard they have for other people. They always go around chanting, no one is above the law, while they live and act and pretend as if they are above the law. And right now we're seeing that. So I guess what they mean is no one is above the law if you're a black man who violates the 1994 crime bill that Joe Biden implemented. But he's not talking about Hunter or their family. You talk about white privilege.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, I think there will be some justice coming down on this, but also, you know, I think this is a big part of why the Democrats just got shellacked in this election. Is this just, you know, you're a locked in Democrat voter. They don't care about the hypocrisy. They don't care about the double standards as long as it's their people benefiting from it. But your average normie voter in the middle sees this just extreme level of hypocrisy among the Democrat Party, and they can't be taken seriously when they're out there pretending Trump is Satan incarnate, and at the same time, all the crimes that they commit get swept under the rug. Nobody investigates. There's pardons. There's special deals against prosecution. They never feel the full effects of the law, and then at the same time, you're just inventing things to go after Trump. And you know, again, I think this is part of what cost them this last election. Well, that's not the only thing people are flipping out about right now. Watch, MSNBC panel loses their minds over Kash Patel's FBI director nomination. Claim he is a cross between Alex Jones and J. Edgar Hoover. And I got a video I want to play for you real quick, then we'll discuss this. Let me go ahead and run this.
Kash Patel as FBI director would be like if you crossed Alex Jones with J. Edgar Hoover in terms of just how much he would want to ignore precedent and the constraints that have been put onto the FBI over the years. With all of the conspiracy theorizing, all of the eagerness to fan the flames of the worst instincts of President Trump put into power, those two things should never mix. Kash Patel has them both, and he is a couple of votes away from that happening once he's put before the Senate.
How does anybody take these people seriously?
Oh, it's hilarious, honestly, and you know, I can think of a lot worse things than being a mix between Alex Jones and and Hoover. So yeah, they're losing their minds because at the end of the day, Kash Patel has been publicly on the record of what we need to do to these people. He said he would tear down the FBI building on day one and reopen it the following day as a museum to the American people. He's taking over an actual crime scene. That's what he's going to be doing. The thing is that the issue that they're having is that he's fully qualified, even by their standards, for this position. They just don't like the fact that he's actually going to be an American patriot in that position and turn around and come after these people the way that they should and the way that the American people have mandated via the vote of President Trump. That's what has all of them scared.
Oh, exactly. You nailed it. Because, yeah, he has prior experience as a prosecutor and as an attorney. He's already worked in the Department of Justice. He meets their standards. This isn't like Gates where they can pretend he doesn't know how to do the job and that he'll just fail at it. They have nothing to say other than Kash Patel will enact the will of the people and the will of President Trump, investigate all the crimes that took place within the FBI, and expose everything. I was listening to Glenn Beck this morning before we jumped on here, and that's the kind of thing he was focused on. He was playing a lot of these older clips with Kash. Like, Kash, again, is not somebody else that knows where the bodies are buried. He's been dealing with this for a long time, both during Trump's first term and for the last 4 years, getting his notes, his facts, and his files together so he knows where to point the weapons once he assumes power. One of the things that I think really terrifies him is Kash has made a big deal about declassification, about getting the facts, what really happened behind the scenes, and with a lot of these cases and with all the corruption at the FBI regarding January 6th, regarding targeting President Trump and his family, that he wants to just release all the records and then prosecute the people that violated the law. I think that terrifies them because now they'll be open proof to the public that they were lying, they were manipulating the Department of Justice to enact their political will instead of looking for actual crimes, whereas we'll be going after actual crimes and it won't be purely political.
Yeah, I mean, that's what scares them at the end of the day because they know that they're guilty. But before I go further, I want to go and give a quick shout out to Shepard Linney in the Rumble chat and Sean over there in the Getter chat. And then Twitter's popping off. We got Matthew, Sister Golden Hair, Thaddeus, Audrey, Michael, and Jorge. Sister Golden Hair actually asked a question. So what the heck? A president can pardon themselves? And yes, a president can pardon themselves. And not only that, they can, there's no precedent for it, but they can preemptively pardon themselves, meaning that they can pardon themselves before they're ever charged with a crime. And actually, that's what Joe just did for Hunter on going all the way back to 2014. He's not only pardoned for the things he's been charged with, he has now been pardoned for the things that they could potentially charge him with in the future. He is now immune for any single crime. We could find out tomorrow that he murdered somebody in 2016. If it was a federal situation, he would be immune from that because even though he's not been charged with it, he would be immune from that because of the blanket pardon that he just received for that time frame. So good question, and just wanted to appreciate you guys for tuning in and hopping in the chat.
Yeah, so state AGs, make your move. Go reach out to Garrett Ziegler over there at Marco Polo. Find out if there's any crimes that Hunter Biden could be charged with in your state. He does need to face justice. Maybe hold off until after Trump's inaugurated, because we want to impact the Democrats as horribly as we can. We want to make sure we knock their teeth out, so that way we can have multiple lines going into them, and they just can't defend against everything at once. At least that would be my recommendation. Guys, we got to take a quick break, and then we're going to be right back with even more.
Hey, folks, it's your buddy John Rich here and co-founder of Old Glory Bank. Let me ask you a question. Why would you trust your banking with people that hate you? Well, you shouldn't. We're building a freedom economy, and now we have a pro-America bank. It's called Old Glory Bank. Check it out at oldglorybank.com and open yourself an account today.
Old Glory Bank is a full-service, FDIC-insured online bank with business and consumer banking and customers in all 50 states. It takes just 8 minutes to open an account at oldglorybank.com.
I couldn't give anything a higher endorsement.
I would be remiss had I not include Cardio Miracle on my very short list of secrets.
It's the real deal. It's a real product. It's not another supplement.
I'm operating about 6 to 8 hours, and I've noticed that being on this Cardio Miracle has made a huge difference.
Since I started taking Cardio Miracle about 8 months into it, the benefits have been fantastic.
If I get hungry, then I just have a Cardio Miracle.
Not only is it safe, but it's necessary to take Cardio Miracle to stay well.
This let me sleep. It's feeling like more energy, more get up and go. And it's all because of what this company does.
For me as a doctor, Cardio Miracle is a staple.
Cardio Miracle to me is hope in a glass.
To try Cardio Miracle for yourself and get a special fan discount, go to the host page right now and click the link for Cardio Miracle.
Thank you for staying with us. And the best way to support Patriot TV, our program, and all the programs that Patriot TV brings you is by supporting our sponsors. Like John Rich said, stop spending your money. Stop banking with people that hate you. Get away from these big monster mega banks that were more than happy to go along with ESG and discriminated against conservatives and debanked conservatives for their political views. It's time to take this country back. We've got momentum right now, and no reason to let that go. It's time to prop up the companies that were there in our corner and abandon those that fought against us, that supported these trans nonsense. The libraries almost said something I shouldn't have. It's time to realign, to vote with our wallets, and send a message. Speaking of messages, the mustache walrus himself, he is also big mad. Rhino neocon John Bolton unhappy with Trump's Kash Patel pick. J.D. Vance responds with fire. This warmonger just wants, he's not there again. Bolton is not there to represent the American people. He is somebody that is there for Raytheon, for General Dynamics. He's there for the war machine. And he's scared right now that Trump is going to be ending conflicts. As we've seen, we've already had peace breakout in Israel, peace breakout in Ukraine. We had big steps forward there. We'll talk about later. But Bolton knows that Kash knows where the bodies are buried, and that's where what he's going to be targeting.
Absolutely. And, they're all nervous, as you said, not only necessarily from being prosecuted for crimes they've committed, they're nervous because the gravy train is coming to an end. They've done all these things, these three-letter agencies, these bureaucracies, unelected bureaucrats have gotten so strong, if you will, in terms of what they're doing. But the worst part is they've been doing it in darkness. They've been hiding in secret and doing this where the average person is not aware. Even those of us who probably think, and this includes Trump in his first term, even those of us who think we know what's going on and just how deep it runs, I think that we are only peeling back a few layers of that onion. I think it's much deeper than any of us could imagine. And this second term is all going to be about President Trump getting the right people in these positions to go back and peel back every single layer of that onion and squash it and do away with it, abolish them, at least to the point that they can never be as corrupt as what they are today. I would love to completely abolish these agencies for forever and that it didn't even exist. But if they're going to exist, at the very least, they need to be crippled to the point that they cannot be what they currently are. And I think that's Trump's goal. I don't think his goal is necessarily to abolish them completely, but I think his goal is obviously at this point to cripple them, to take away their power and prevent them from ever having this much power again. And that's what scares these elites in DC. They've had this this awesome thing for them, these crime families, to do all this stuff behind the scenes, and they see that power and that money is close to drying up, and that scares them to death.
Well, yeah, I think you really hit on the big thing is they've been shielded from prosecution for the last several years. That the State Department, everyone else has covered up their corruption. They've been allowed to make all these backroom deals, it's the gravy train. They've been able to ensure these funds keep going to themselves. Then they use those to bribe different people in Congress through, not literally bribe, through legal means, through funding their campaigns, their PACs, their causes, their charities, whatever. But we all know what's really going on. And yeah, they're afraid now that this is going to end and it's going to get exposed. Even the elements that aren't illegal, that are just unsavory, the country will know all about, and people won't go for it. I want to say one other thing, here. I want to give credit to Elon Musk for getting out ahead of this before we could have a bunch of rhino senators say that the Kash Patel is not qualified. Elon Musk backs Kash Patel's nomination for FBI director. Rhino senators who do not vote to confirm Patel will face challenges. And this is exactly what we need to be doing. We all saw how they reacted with Matt Gaetz, where they all just lost their minds. We need to send the message early on that you're either with us or against us, and you're against us, you're going to be primaried.
Elon Musk has become one of the most based supporters of the MAGA movement, and he's got the money to do it as well. He's already proven that he's willing to put his money where his mouth is on a lot of these issues, and the sheer threat of that is enough to put a lot of these people in line. Even if they don't want to, they will hold their nose and do it out of fear and out of self-preservation, because at the end of the day, that's what these people care about the most on Capitol Hill, is preserving their own political career so they can continue doing what they've been doing. And Sean brought up a good point in the Getter chat a few minutes ago and said that these people thought they were untouchable, and historically they have been. For decades they've been quote unquote untouchable. A lot of the people who's involved in this deep state right now, their parents were probably involved in the deep state, so they were raised up in it. And now they're in these positions, and they've basically been taught, even if they didn't come out and say it, they've been groomed to believe that they are untouchable and that they are above the Constitution. They are above the American people. The rest of us are just peasants. And now all of a sudden, you got somebody who's elected into this position, and he's putting people in these positions to go expose these people and show them that they are touchable, that they can be held accountable, and that they will be held accountable. And these people are, quite frankly, they're freaking out right now because they've never even. Not only did they not think this was possible, they never even had this thought cross their mind. They never even conceived the thought that this could happen. So they're running scared right now and being emotional because something is happening that I don't think they ever even planned for this, because they didn't think it was possible.
You're exactly right. The illusion of American aristocracy is coming to an end, that they're not going to be treated like they're the American royal family anymore, that it's time for them to pay for their crimes. It's time for them to be brought to justice just like anyone else. And, they're going crazy right now because they, like you said, they thought this was something that would never happen. They're not the only ones losing their minds, though, right now. The media is, too. Democrat strategist claims U.S. military will shoot her when she protests mass deportations. These people are just completely delusional. They think Trump is going to take control of the military, turn it on his political enemies, and they're all just going to be wiped out. That it's going to be firing squads and electric bleachers for everyone. But that's clearly not the case. And she's making this comment again after Tom Holman. They played part of a statement he made that basically if the mayor in, is it Aurora? Yeah, Aurora. If he says he's willing to go to jail, that's great because, Holman's willing to put him there for preventing deportations. And that's how things need to be handled. If you're a governor or a mayor or whoever, and you're illegally blocking the federal government, federal law enforcement, you should be arrested just like anybody else. But right now, we've played these games for the last close to 20 years now with sanctuary cities. Well, sorry, going forward, there's going to be repercussions for that. It's not going to be the military rounding, dissident media up and shooting them in the streets, but it is going to be elected officials who violate the law actually paying for their crimes instead of just ignoring it. And it's going to be funding getting cut off en masse for cities that continue to shield illegal aliens. And the idea, as you're well aware, is to put pressure on them, because as your citizen services get cut off because you're violating federal law, ignoring federal statutes, and preventing law enforcement from operating, they're going to want you to turn around and stop things, because they're the ones also suffering at the hands of these illegal aliens. You might be safe in your ivory tower, but your citizens aren't, and they're tired of this. That's why we just won this election with a mandate.
Absolutely. Quick shout out to FG in the Getter chat, and then Sammy and Travis in the Twitter chat. Appreciate you guys. But the people, the reason they're saying that is because that's exactly what they did. Think about it. So Michael Byrd shot Ashley Babbitt for protesting at the Capitol on January 6th. Nothing happened to him. They also killed Roseanne Boyland and two others. And so they've set that precedent. So now they are fearful that the precedent that they have set is going to be used against them. President Trump has proven multiple times that he's not a vindictive person. I wish, to be honest with you, that he was a little bit more vindictive. I wish that he was beating the retribution drums a lot more right now. That's me, and I think most of the base feels the same way. President Trump has a huge heart. He's an awesome person who I think is going to put the country above his own personal retribution. And I think he's going to do everything he can to rein in the power of all these things. But like the crazy talk they're talking about right now, he's not. I mean, that's insane to even talk like that. And what it is fear mongering. They're once again trying to put fear into their base and into their people to believe that President Trump is some monster that he's already been proven that he's not. But there's a small section of people out there who will believe that, and then in a few months, when they start ramping up the rhetoric and telling people to go out and burn down half the country, for protesting for something, it's a lot easier to get them to do that because they've already been emotionally bought in. And that's really what this is all about.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing any of these journalists actually have to fear is if any of them were directly involved with taking instructions from the CIA or other government entities on what to report, or knowingly going out and lying to the American people, being given their marching orders, and then just going out and regurgitating that information, that they will be exposed to the public for the frauds they are. There won't be any legal there's not going to be criminal charges or other legal problems for them, but their career will be over. They'll be known as the fraud they are, that just took this nonsense from our intelligence agencies and then regurgitated to the American people. And I think that is what they're really afraid of, because their credibility is already in the toilet. We've got MSNBC on the chopping block, CNN's on the chopping block. They're both probably going to be sold within the next few months and rebranded. I really hope Elon Musk buys MSNBC. That'd be great to turn them back into an actual news agency again. But I think that's where their real fear is exposure. They know Trump is not going to send around, military Gestapo units to shoot them or arrest them for, trumped up, made up crimes. But being exposed for the frauds they are, that's what scares them.
Absolutely. It's 100% what it is at the end of the day. And the media is in on all of this. And there's something else. I don't know if we're necessarily covering this. I'm trying to remember who it was, but they were talking about how the censorship cartel is going to be exposed during this time as well, with the person in charge of the FCC and everything. That's who it was. Whoever it was that Trump appointed to the or nominated to be appointed to the FCC had said that obviously he's going to speak with President Trump, but in terms of personal goals, his main mission this term was going to be to go after the censorship cartel of Facebook and other social media platforms. That would be huge. I mean, I don't think people can really understand the importance of what that would look like if we were to open up all the other social media platforms the way that X has been opened up under Elon Musk, and what that would do for the conservative movement moving forward to be able to have a voice on all these other platforms.
Well, I know there's some in the media that are already afraid Zuckerberg's opening up and talking about this, and that's why he's had a couple meetings, gone down and met with Trump at Mar-a-Lago at least twice now, and they think they're fearful that he is already cooperating. And again, I don't think this is because Zuckerberg's had some massive change of heart or anything like that. I think he knows that otherwise there's potential for criminal activity and other things that they could go after, or even just stripping away a lot of their protections that the social media companies have right now. I think he sees where the writing is on the wall. He knows what they did was wrong, and they're afraid of just being exposed. Like I said, at the end of the day, it's about their credibility. Right now, they can pretend nothing's happened, nothing's wrong, but it's all of a sudden the American people have all the facts. They see exactly what happened. They know that the DOJ and these social media companies coordinated to protect Biden, to protect Kamala Harris, to protect Hillary Clinton. We know they have a history of it. Then once all that is confirmed, then they're going to have to deal with the repercussions, and things will be changed to make sure that doesn't happen again. I think that's really what has them scared right now.
Well, not only that, I think that the collusion between the government and these social media companies, the way that we saw under the Twitter files, thanks to Elon Musk, is how they had their own group chat with the higher ups of Twitter and FBI agents who would just send them a post and say, "Hey, censor this," or "Hey, cancel this account," or whatever, and they were abiding by all of that. And so that was really the big story there that I think got lost in the weeds, was that it was the government directing Twitter to censor. That was what took it to another level. If they were doing that at Twitter, they're doing it at Facebook and Instagram and whatever else is out there. I don't know all of them, but those things are happening. Google. And so if they can get in there and actually make some changes on that, to where open it up to where we actually truly have free speech, because it's really a utility at this point, and they're not being treated as such. If I call my brother on the phone and say things that, hey, they stole the 2020 election, Verizon is not allowed to shut off my phone because of my political views on that. They're not allowed to cancel me, whereas Facebook and social media, they can. And I believe that social media has grown to the point now of actually being a utility, a form of utility like that. And they need to be under the same set of rules as Verizon and everything else when it comes to censorship and free speech. That would do wonders in terms of opening it up and allowing, the left is freaking out on Twitter right now and or X, and claiming that this is a right-wing extremist platform now. It's not. It's the same as it always was. The only difference is the conservative voice is not being stifled. It is not being suppressed. And so this is the first time that they've been allowed to hear from us, because they were living in a left-wing echo chamber for years. And I feel that for a lot of them, it's been so eye-opening. It's almost, kind of hurting them in a way, from the standpoint of like they don't know how to react, because they're hearing things for the first time that they never even considered because our voices were suppressed, and it's shocking to them. And they're truly in shock when they're reading some of the things from those of us. And I think they're shocked learning that they are actually the minority, because for so long they thought that we were the minority.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. And, it's also, when the government asks them to do something, they're not really asking. At the end of the day, they wanted to form a censorship cartel, basically the mafia. They wanted to control what could and couldn't be said across all social media. They want to control these fake fact checkers and other things. They really don't like the Twitter community notes that can instantly, when they put something up, point out the lies, point out the logical fallacies and inaccuracies in every post they make. It's driving them insane, because now they're being held to a real standard and being forced to tell the truth there, and they don't want that to spread across to other platforms. They wanted to keep their monopoly, and it's going away. Let's go ahead and pull our next story here so we can get through some more things, because it's the Democrat the news anchors and pundits aren't the only ones losing their minds right now. OnlyFans model Dem Woman says Trump election forced them to get sterilized rather than lose their reproductive rights. So we got more lefties out there, more maniac lefty women out there sterilizing themselves because they think we're about to enter the what is the name of that stupid book and show that it's going to be the real life
Handmaid's Tale
here in the next couple weeks. But we all know that's not the case. But honestly, I don't really mind these people taking themselves out of the gene pool. We don't need crazy people having more crazy leftist kids, more communists. I'd much rather their point of view just die off eventually.
Yeah, well, quick shout out to Thaddeus, who earlier when we were just talking there says free speech in the Twitter chat. Thaddeus says free speech for everyone fosters a world of ideas, and I agree 100%. And hate speech is free speech at the end of the day. In terms of this, look, this is just further proves the point that we've made multiple times: is the left does not reproduce by having children. These left-wing extremists, the left reproduces by indoctrinating our own children, our children. That is how they reproduce, because they are not capable of doing so because of things such as this, and they abort most of the babies that they do end up getting pregnant with, and they're trans and all this other stuff. So they reproduce by indoctrinating the children of others, and that is how they do that. The fact that they think that they're owning us, I guess, if you will, by cutting off their hair and getting sterilized, like I don't really care. I support your freedom to do that if that's something you want to do. I also have the freedom to laugh at you and think that you're crazy. But if that's something that you want to do, you have the freedom. You're a grown person. If you want to cut off your hair and sterilize yourself, this is America, and you have the freedom to do that. And if anybody says you can't, I will defend your freedom to go and make stupid decisions if that's what you want to do.
Exactly. Well, guys, we got to take one more break here from our sponsors, and then we're going to be right back with even more.
Now we have it. Kingdom Crunch.
It's important to start breakfast off with a power-packed punch. You want a complete amino acid score, good protein. If you turn the label over and look at the back of the box, there is no added sugars in either one of these flavors, either peanut butter or acai bowl.
Peanut butter has 11 grams of high-quality protein. Acai bowl has 8. Peanut butter has 11 grams of carbohydrate, acai bowl 12, and both of them have a good solid fat content at 6 grams. Very filling, very healthy.
You will be fueling yourself with high quality fuel, starting off the day right. You can even use Kingdom Crunch as a snack in the middle of the day if you just have a craving and you want to eat something that is good for you, has a crunch, and doesn't have a lot of calories.
There you go. Diabetic friendly, keto friendly, paleo friendly, Kingdom Crunch, and
child friendly.
Hey, Patriot TV fans, feel like there's nothing on the radio for like-minded, intelligent people like yourself? Well, great news. Now you can stream Patriot TV on TuneIn during your drive to or from work. Whether you're stuck in traffic or cruising down the highway, you can catch every conversation from your favorite show hosts right in your car. No more mindless jibber-jabber. Tune in 24/7 on the road, at the gym, or wherever you are. Download the free TuneIn app now on Apple, Android, or your computer and never miss a beat. Patriot TV, now on TuneIn.
Thank you for staying with us. And the best way to support Patriot TV, our program, and all the programs over here is by supporting our sponsors. Download TuneIn. That way you can listen to us when you're driving around town and stuck in traffic. And in Kingdom Crunch, we want to make America healthy again. It's a great opportunity to do that. You can go to patriot.tv. You can select our show, add the products to your cart, and then that way we'll also get some credit for helping. And that's what keeps us on the air. We got a few more things to get into before we wrap up for the day. And BRICS is apparently not working out for China the way they thought it would. Trump and BRICS breaking China's bank and breaking China's bank and making Xi lose face. China has already been in a huge economic crisis that gets very little attention. They've had a real estate bubble burst, and they have just all kinds of problems with their banking there with the ABC Bank, the Associated Bank of China, and then their other, commie-controlled bank. And BRICS is really highlighting that it's now investment they thought would come in is now instead going a different direction. Not to mention, Trump recently announced a 100% tariff on BRICS nations if they continue with this, if they leave the petrodollar. And China's scared, and their economy is not in nearly as good a shape as most of the world would, or most of our media would want you to believe.
Yeah, it's funny because when Trump made that statement, obviously I knew there was a lot more going on. And then I saw this afterwards, and I was like, oh, that's why he made that statement, because he already knew this information. But yeah, he said he was going to issue 100% tariffs on any country that chooses to use BRICS over the U.S. dollar. And once again, this is why we need somebody in that position who understands business on a global scale the way that President Trump does. There's really no words to put into what that means for the American people and the American economy. And I'm really excited to see what President Trump does with this and the tariffs. Some of these countries do not want to get into a tariff war with us.
No, they're not going to survive. Our media keeps pretending that these tariffs are going to just be a catastrophe for the American people. They're forgetting. We've done this before. We've been in this rodeo. Trump enacted tariffs previously, and a lot of times he didn't even have to actually enact them. It's just the threat of a tariff was all it took to get change, and that's what we've already seen with Mexico and Canada regarding the border and a number of other issues. That just the specter of tariffs is all it took to get real change. And we do have fractional increases on certain goods and services. I don't think it's going to be enough to really negatively impact the vast majority of people here in the U.S., especially considering, your payroll taxes are going to be decreasing, hopefully getting eliminated at some point. And it's going to create good, high-paying American jobs. We're going to get back to building up our economy, making it stronger, producing more goods here. And if that means a few things have a marginal increase in price, I don't think it's going to be enough to negatively impact 99.9999% of Americans.
I'll tell you, I will happily pay a little bit extra for goods and services that are produced here in the United States of America that are providing jobs for my fellow Americans. I will pay extra to do that because I understand, how much it's going to benefit things. And you're correct in terms of the income tax. There's a growing movement, if you will. I feel like that voice is getting louder right now in the MAGA base of encouraging Trump to actually do away with that. I feel like Trump kind of teased that at one point just to kind of gauge the base and see what the reaction was going to be. And I think that the reaction overwhelmingly has been to get rid of it and move away from that. And I would love to see that happen. And I think that we need to just keep beating that drum and do that. That would be incredible for the American people if we could get rid of the IRS and the personal income tax and just go to whether that's tariffs or whether that is just a flat tax on the sales of purchases, like that sort of thing. I think everybody would be on board with that, and everybody can participate in the economy by doing so.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see either a national sales tax like the old Herman Cain idea. I volunteered with this campaign years and years ago because I thought that was a brilliant way to shift things. But I like you said, I'd even be happy if it was just a flat tax at a more reasonable rate, say a 10% flat tax on every dollar a household makes over, say $50,000 or $75,000, whatever they come to. Instead of having all these loopholes, having your taxes be overly complicated, where you've got to hire an attorney and a tax accountant just to file your taxes every year, especially if you're a small business or have complicated taxes. It should be very simple. The whole form should fit on half a sheet of paper, and that would solve that problem. Because again, right now it basically is just theft from the American people, and then Congress just goes spending like drunken sailors on whatever idiotic program they want to. And thank God we've got DOGE coming in, the Department of Government Efficiency, to help shine a light on a lot of this waste and highlight things. And again, I think that's the other thing they really fear right now is the vast majority of these government waste programs, maybe not the vast majority, but a lot of them are essentially going to be laundering money to friendly causes and political counterparts, and that's all going to get exposed.
Well, and people don't realize that up until 1913, they didn't have the personal income tax. So that was when the private organization called the Federal Reserve. They were very smart in the way that they named it to trick people into thinking it was a government entity. It's a private group. Runs the Federal Reserve. Up until then, in 1913, we didn't have personal income tax. And I mean, our country flourished from 1776 all the way up until then, just fine without that. We need to get back to that. It's time to end the Fed, as the infamous Ron Paul has always said. And I think that the most glorious thing that President Trump could do, well, the second most glorious thing he could do, other than abolishing the Fed, would be to give Ron Paul the stamp to actually officially end it live on TV, because that man has been beating that drum for a really long time and opened up the eyes of so many. And I think that without Ron Paul, I don't think we have a President Trump presidency that we have today. Ron Paul really laid the groundwork and the foundation that ended up becoming the MAGA base in a lot of ways, from the people who wanted to, outsiders and to get rid of this and to tear down the system. And Ron Paul's the one that started that, and I would love to see him actually have the one who's given the green light to actually rubber stamp it and end it once and for all.
I'd love to see them just get rid of the building, give Ron Paul the dynamite plunger. He can press it down and destroy the Fed, literally implode the building, and then that serves as a warning to all other future national banks that want to come in here, because we have beat the banks before. Back in 1880, I think. I might have the year wrong. Might be 1870. But Jackson beat the banks before, and it's been nothing but a problem. It's decreased the value of our dollar, and it's basically enslaved the American people again. So the income taxes and the Federal Reserve, that needs to come to an end, and we need to figure out a safe path to do that won't also implode the economy. But if anybody can do it, it's going to be President Trump and the team he's got around him. Citizens of Shasta County, California declare state of emergency and demand certifiable election results. We are almost a month out from the election, and they are still counting votes in California. I mean, I don't understand how you can only count 154 votes a day, like I saw one of these days that they did in California. I mean, they are just, at this point, Pelosi's daughter's working with them. They're just trying to find new votes and cure ballots to shift the results. They're just trying to steal seats in California, and we all know it. I mean, this has been one of the failures of the RNC again. They do need to get involved here and put a stop to this, because I think that these seats are literally being stolen from the rightful winners of these elections.
Well, that's been the most frustrating thing of the 2024 election. While everybody's been out celebrating the Trump victory, the Democrats have continued to, I'm not even going to say count ballots. The Democrats have been out here manufacturing and producing ballots and stealing seats in the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate all along the way. If they hadn't stole these seats from Kerry Lake and Sam Brown in Nevada and a couple of these other seats, I mean, now we're at 57 or so in the U.S. Senate, and we're allowed to have a Murkowski and people like that who go to the left, and we would still get things passed by just having the sheer number. Same thing in the U.S. House. They're doing this. I read over the weekend, as you said, we're like a month out from the election, post-election, and there's still 80-something thousand ballots to be counted in California right now. This is absolutely unacceptable. The whole reason that they originally went to machines in this country was that they said it would be faster and more efficient to count the votes. That is obviously not true. The locations and the third world countries who count by hand were able to get these things done on election night. And so there needs to be some major changes. That's something else that President Trump, I hope that he creates. I'm not a fan of creating more government, but there does need to be some sort of position created to kind of oversee the federal elections, if you will, and go in and audit and do investigations and recommendations. Obviously, I'm on the Mike Lindell train here in terms of getting rid of the machines, moving to paper ballots, counted at the precinct level, very transparent for everyone to see, counted by hand at the precinct level. That is the way to go, and we need to really start pushing for that moving forward.
Well, the Biden regime, they sent out observers to different various red states to make sure nobody was being discriminated against in the election. Nobody wasn't being allowed to vote or whatever. Again, that was all about intimidation. But there's no reason that Trump can't use that same directive and send people out as poll observers, watchers. It's always the same places. It's always the same cities within the swing states and out in California that don't know how to count anymore. If we're going to take them at their word. So if they're having this much trouble, then I guess we need to send in some people that know what they're doing. Now, the other good news is, and I'm sure you guys have seen Wesley Hunt and Byron Donalds out there in the media saying they have support in the next Congress for a national voter ID law. And this would also require the states to go in, clean up their voter rolls. I'm not sure what the words are in the statute. We do need to go over that and make sure that's something that will actually have some teeth in it and be enforceable. But also that results will have to be declared within, I don't know if it was 24 hours or 12 hours. I want to say it was 12 hours, but I think it was 24. So should have gone back and read that before we jumped on here. But anyway, so there is hunger for that, and supposedly they've already got the votes, that there's a few Democrats that are going to sign on, so it'll be bipartisan. And some of these changes will help, but you're right. Like we need boots on the ground that are actually doing this right, that are we also need people to go to jail when they're clearly violating the law, like this last group of wingnuts up in Pennsylvania that openly said they were breaking the law. You know, those 2 county commissioners or whatever they were need to be rotting in prison right now. So it's time to end this this election nonsense that's gone on now for the last 8 years at this point. It's time for that to end, and then the people that were violating the law, manipulating the system, it's time for them to pay for their crimes.
Absolutely. Well, I'm with Thaddeus over here in the Twitter chat who says it's counting, for crying out loud. It's not brain surgery, and that's exactly. Oh, I know. That's exactly right. It's nothing. It's counting. It's 1, 2, 3. I mean, it's not that difficult to do this, and they have made this the most difficult process because they want it to be. Have you guys ever seen a time where counting continued on for weeks and even a month after the election and that benefited the Republicans? I have never once, and I know it's very possible there's one out there. It's a big country. If there is a situation where that has happened, I would love for someone to post it in the comments or in the chat or something, because like I truly want to know, has there ever been a time where the Republicans benefited that with the continued counting that's going on? Because the only thing I can think of is every single time the seat goes from Republicans have control and the Democrats end up winning it by just the perfect amount. It's like, they always just barely win. They get just enough votes, and then they magically stop counting. They stop the counting as soon as the Democrats take the lead every single time. It's absolutely fascinating what's going on. I agree. These people need to go to prison. I went to prison for peacefully protesting the stolen election in 2020, as well as many others did. The people who actually are stealing the elections, they're the ones that need to be in prison, and they ought to start with those people up there in Pennsylvania, as you mentioned, because they openly admitted that they didn't care what the law was, that they were going to break the law and try to steal that election, and they need to make an example out of those people and throw them in prison.
Exactly. Charge them with sedition. For using their political power to subvert the will of the people. But yeah, you're right. I can't think of any examples where this has gone the other way and it's a Republican's gained a seat because of it. I can think of plenty where they ended up having to shut down the counting process, and the Republicans still ended up winning, that they weren't able to inject enough fake votes in to steal the election, but no examples where it swung the other way. And you're right, they always end the counting, and the minute they magically find enough votes for the Democrat, oh, okay, Sam Smith is up 50 votes, time to call it. I guess there aren't any more votes out there. Does anybody else have any boxes in the trunk of their car they forgot to turn in? It's just ridiculous nonsense, but we keep going with it. Last thing I want to get with, because we are almost out of time here. The Democrats really woke up a sleeping giant. Musk reportedly considering $100 million donation to Nigel Farage's Reform UK party. So if this is true and he starts funding these kind of changes, not just here, but around the world, this is the death of the globalist movement. They've already tried every dirty trick they could to keep Farage and his party out of power in the UK. They're doing the same to Marine Le Pen in France, even threatening to put her in jail before the next election because they know she's going to win. They've tried dirty tricks in Romania, Hungary, everywhere. The left continually tries these dirty tricks to take out conservative candidates. But if Musk gets in with this kind of funding, I don't know that they have the juice to bypass that.
No, I agree, and I know we're almost out of time, so I'll just quickly say, if you guys have not been following what's going on in the UK right now, you need to tune in and go check that out, and maybe we can cover that at some point. It is absolutely insane. People are going to prison for posting memes, for saying things, and I'm not talking about anything threatening or anything like that. Just typical free speech things, and they are sending their version of the FBI to these people's homes, knocking the doors down, grabbing these people out, and throwing them in prison for years over speech. And so it's a major issue. Elon Musk has been talking about it for quite a while now. And they've even threatened Elon Musk for owning Twitter and allowing the speech to take place on Twitter as well. So they're definitely woken up a sleeping giant, and that's a big story that people are not paying attention to.
Well, guys, there's lots more to cover. So please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. To everybody that's new, that just spotted us on the new Twitter accounts and other things that are out there right now, again, please like, share, and subscribe. The only way we're going to bypass the mainstream media is with your help. So with that said, thanks again, everyone, and we'll be back again tomorrow morning with even more.